So this is all about qualitative tests. And remember, they are used to identify the presence of ions in substances. And it says the test for each ion must be unique. Explain why the test ion must be unique. So if we have tests that are not unique, it's going to be really hard to tell the ions apart. So if we put that into words here, if the tests for ions give the same results, it will be hard to tell the ions apart. So for example, if they both produce the white precipitate, we wouldn't know which ion is present because the two ions are producing the same result. So 1 mark for each bit. Next one, state the gas produced if we've got carbonate ions present. So if we've got carbonate ions present, we will form carbon dioxide as a product. And then here we've got tests and observations. We have to link the two together. So testing for chloride ions. If we have a chloride ion present, we get a white precipitate. Test for iodide ions. So again, we're doing a similar test. We've got the silver nitrate in there, and iodide ions are a yellow color. And test for sulfate ions. We're adding barium chloride, which will then form barium sulfate, which is also a white precipitate. There is, in here, they have said to you that more than one of the tests could be used 2 or more times, so we're okay by doing what we've done, and there's 1 mark for each point in there. Okay, this is a 6 marker, so I've redone it, I've prepared it already. I think it's easy to talk through when it's prepared. What we've got here is a solid. It's known that it contains a chloride, but they want us to identify which metal out of those 4 is going to be present. A chemist was taught to carry a test for each metal to identify which is present. Describe the test to show which of these metals are present. So there's 2 tests we have to do. The first test is a flame test. And to do a flame test, you get your wire loop, and you would first of all dip the wire into hydrochloric acid, and then you would heat it, and then you dip it into distilled water to get it damp, and then place it into the solid sample that you are going to test, so some of the sample will stick to it. You place the wire into the blue Bunsen flame, and you observe the colour. If it is sodium, the flame will become yellow. If it's potassium, you get a lilac coloured flame. If it's calcium, you get this orange-red coloured flame. All bullet points that we've got here need to be listed, including saying that this would use a flame test. Second thing we'd have to do is we would use sodium hydroxide solution. And to do this, we'd get our samples, dissolve them in water to make a solution, and then we add a few drops of sodium hydroxide to our sample. If it's aluminium and calcium ions, then what will happen is both of those will form a white precipitate, so a white insoluble solid will form. Remember, that's no good because that's not unique. 2 ions making a white solid, we can't tell them apart. What you then do is add more drops of the sodium hydroxide, and if it's aluminium, the precipitate will dissolve and therefore disappear, and you get a colourless solution formed. If it's calcium, then the white precipitate will remain. Sodium and potassium, there is no precipitate formed. So between the 2, the flame test and the using sodium hydroxide solution, we can identify all 4. I count that there are 17 bullet points in there, so I'm awarding the marks like this. If you've got over 15 bullet points, give yourself a 6, but remember, you've got to explain it logically in sentences so it makes sense to somebody else reading your work.